Will Trump sign state-to-state reciprocity? Cancel culture is getting canceled. And our special guests, John Petrolino and Charlie Cook, plus a special message from Santa on the loaded mic. There are two main arguments against gun control. Now, the first one is more gun control laws do not reduce crime and violence. Now, the concept is simple, and we have the data to back it up. The truth is, where there's more gun control, there's more violence, crime, and murder. The reason is simple. Gun control disarms good people and emboldens the bad guys. But we shouldn't have to argue for our gun rights based on that. In other words, we shouldn't have to justify our right to keep and bear arms based on a defensive position. We shouldn't have to prove to the gun grabbers that guns are an asset to society. We already have the Second Amendment. Now, our founding fathers wrote that into the Bill of Rights. So we don't have to even entertain the anti-American ideology that they saw coming. Regardless of how many facts and statistics we have to prove that guns save lives, our founding fathers wrote that into the Bill of Rights, so we wouldn't have to even entertain the anti-American ideology that they saw coming. Regardless of how many facts and statistics we have to prove that guns save lives, our founding fathers enshrined that right into our founding documents. Unfortunately, our society has normalized the deterioration of our Bill of Rights. Now, this happens because people who can't think for themselves and people who don't want to take responsibility for themselves, and frankly, people who don't want to be free, have taken over the narrative. Now, these are people who like being told what to do and expect government to protect them. They've taken over areas of government, the media, schools, and entertainment. They've been convinced that it's okay for them to support the violation of gun rights of their fellow citizens. Now, they should be ashamed of themselves, but because of a certain portion of society supports these ideas, they not only are unashamed, they feel righteous in their pursuit. Now, we often talk about the enemy to our society. Well, the enemy to our American way of life are those who live among us who are trying to destroy our founding principles. So we're going to talk about this and many other things with... He's so smart, I can see his IQ from my backyard. John Chiara. And he's not political, but he does enjoy a nice glass of liberal tears with dinner. Anthony Diso. And our special guest and friends of the show, author and National Second Amendment advocate, John Petrolino. And host of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Charlie Cook. So the question, guys, are the anti-gunners in America the enemy? And what should we do about them trying to destroy our gun rights? Take it away, somebody.
Deport them with illegals.
Deport them. Well, it's good to have Johnny P. I call him Johnny P. Johnny Petrolino, and Charlie Cook here today. So we got a ton of stuff I want to get to, guys. But let's get you guys in the conversation early on. What are we talking about when we're talking about the gun rights? The anti-gun rights activists, okay, doing all they do with total disregard to the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Second Amendment. What are your thoughts on all this?
I say we just ignore them. Ignore them. Just flat out, oh, we want this and this. Okay, and then just be like, whatever, we're not doing that. It's stupid to kowtow to these people. It's like when your kids want to have a cake for breakfast. You just ignore them and you give them a bagel, right?
With frosting on it.
Right, okay. But just ignore them. Be like, okay, we're gonna do that, and then just completely ignore them.
Well, I think you brought up the very valid point, Dan, is it doesn't matter how many statistics we bring to the table. It doesn't matter how much of the facts. They ignore it. So maybe Charlie's got the right idea, is just ignore them. Or you could take a contrary position and, do the fire hose methodology, and if you want to get on them with a high pressure fire hose, it'll blow their hair off.
And at least
Did he just
wash the color.
Wow.
Wash-
Feels special.
quoting Anthony? That was funny.
That was.
Last week's show.
Well, I think that falls into the category of a lot of things that we talk about, is that you can't really play their game, right? You can't start talking to them like what they're saying is a valid premise, because usually it's not a valid premise. As you said, they ignore statistics, they ignore numbers, they refuse to believe common sense, human motivation, incentive, anything that makes, causes people to take certain actions and modify their behavior. These people are just, they have blinders on. And so I would say that's a good, at least for the first part of Trump's term, I would say push forward.
Right, exactly. You can't pay attention to this stuff. These people ignore all the facts that we have. They ignore all the studies. They ignore all of this stuff. They don't want to believe it. They don't think that things are dangerous and people are out to harm you, but just ignore them.
Well, a perfect example. I had a couple conversations last week with two different people about crimes committed by illegal aliens, immigrants, whatever we want to call them these days. And it's like, okay, so if you
I think they're calling them newcomers.
that's from the TV show, right? We talked about that.
Newcomers.
But they don't understand that if you import 10 million people, you're going to have criminals, and all the crimes they commit are going to be extra crimes. They're not crimes that were going to be there otherwise. Illegals, commit crimes at a lower rate than normal citizens do. Right, but
There's a smaller
they're
portion
still
of this.
added crimes. They're not no crimes. And the people whose kids were killed or something, what do you say to those people? You don't matter? I thought if you only saved one life,
This is
cross
that.
state line.
This is that total disregard to per capita argument.
Right.
They'll say, well, citizens commit more crimes than illegals. Well, yeah, because illegals are a much smaller portion of our society. But when you do it per capita, you got a different
And you make
scenario.
it personal.
Yeah.
Well, it's your kid that got killed. That's not only one person. Doesn't matter. Stupid idea.
It's ridiculous. It's I absolutely love when they come up with this. Well, there's more Americans commit crimes than the illegal aliens do. Okay, but they're still illegal. So there's one extra crime that they're starting with.
Right.
Right. Even if it saves one crime, if it saves one life, wouldn't it be worth it to deport them all?
I would say.
You get the bunch too that say, "Hey, we're required to speak across the aisle," and I don't think we are required to speak across the aisle. I think there are some benefits to talking across the aisle, but where I really, really fail at this really well, like miserably, is the arguments come up and you have a vehement anti-gunner or somebody that's very anti-civil liberties. And, somebody that's a gun grabber. So, well, we just confiscate all the guns. And I usually go straight for the jugular. And I say, that you understand that that's the same principle that Adolf Hitler embraced to allow the Holocaust to happen. And that usually, it shuts the conversation down in a very unmeaningful way. But, hey, that's the facts. So you want to look at the facts? Let's ignore the facts. Well, let's look at the emotion behind it. Well, that's too much emotion, but that's still the facts.
I think it starts from a total disregard or lack of understanding of our founding principles. Because you got to, these people who are talking like this, they haven't been around since 1776, and they haven't studied the history of why those documents have been written. They don't know. They've been taking care of their whole. Go ahead.
No, you were perfect. I like the line you were on, but here's the thing. You look at freedom and you look at liberty. That doesn't mean that these things are neat. Freedom and liberty are not neat. They're not necessarily orderly. If you want a neat and orderly society of people that do what they're supposed to do, the right thing, then you have a totalitarian, government. That's what you do. You institute that. Perfect example is Singapore. Well, why are the streets so clean? Because if you put chewing gum on the street, you're going to get your butt whooped by a piece of bamboo. Michael Fay from the 90s was a perfect example.
Oh, he was the kid that went to China?
It was Singapore. He did this.
okay.
It was an ambassador's kid or something like that. And
Right, with the caning.
he did the spray painting, and then he got caught doing graffiti. He got caned.
Nice.
You want to stay in line, you beat your people.
Was that the one from Russia, Danny? Are you on? Can everyone hear you?
I can hear him.
No, they can. Otto
It's a
Warmbier.
ghost.
Remember him?
I don't.
He stole, or he like took down a flyer or something.
Oh, that's
in
right.
a North Korean hotel, and then he got thrown in some sort of gulag, and then I believe he died there. But there was like a video of him kind of pleading to the in court to just get him out or something.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. What if we took these people and made them make videos to plead to their country to say, "Hey, get us out of America."
That'll
Right?
never happen.
We're gonna cane them. We're gonna lock them up. We'll do all that stuff.
Please,
Right?
Venezuela, take me back.
Well, I
Right.
saw some documentary last night about Venezuelans saying we want to go home, because they're coming here and they're finding out that they're,
Right. They're trying-
either they have to be part of a gang or they don't get what they thought they were going to get.
They're not getting all the free benefits that Biden promised them.
No,
Well, they got to work for it by beating down the doors and stealing it.
Taking over apartment buildings and
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy.
the press actually tried saying that was not true, that they weren't taking over but
I heard somebody say, "Well, it's only 2 apartment complexes.
Oh, that's one too many.
Let's make it your apartment complex."
Right. Or the apartment complex next to yours.
Right. Right.
let me go to one of our sponsors real quick. The Cali Key. Now, this device, the Cali Key, removes your AR from the definition of a so-called assault weapon. Now, did you know that when these so-called assault weapon ban lists are created, they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms? So just by dropping the Cali Key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you'll have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of assault weapon. You don't need to do anything else. So give the Cali Key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision and quiet or suppressed shooting. And the Cali Key has state-to-state state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website, and it supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Cali Key's mission: to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. So go to CaliKey.com, use the discount code LOADED. CaliKey.com, discount code LOADED. So, where were you? Where were we?
He was talking about taking over Venezuela apartment.
Where we
Hopefully
what
not that
happened?
apartment complex.
Oh, that's right. The apartment. All right. So Anthony's going to tell us about the apartment. Go ahead.
Why am I telling him about it? He was saying it.
No, so I mean, so there's these guys, and I've been using this in the gun classes I teach too. I say, I always tell people you should get yourself a high capacity magazine, and I have to make those noises when I say this nonsense. But I say you should
Just
get
like
one of these.
assault weapon.
Right, it's the same thing.
Weapons of war.
But the reason I always tell people in class, I said the reason you want to have these is for when Venezuelan gangs break into your apartment complex, and people are like, oh yeah, that's right.
it's like some people can't make it personal, right? They
Right.
can't even imagine that happening. They think it's like something I see on TV, but it will never happen to me until it does, and then of course.
That's how everybody thinks, though.
I agree.
New York, just a little while ago, this morning, CEO of United Healthcare got murdered.
We were just watching the little video clip of it. Yeah.
Yeah, right on the street. With it looked like his gun had a suppressor on it or a silencer, and
Looks like a hit.
it really does. It really does. But the guy that shot him didn't look anything like you would imagine an assassin would. He's the dude with a hoodie over his head, a backpack, right? Just comes down in between a couple of cars and pops the dude in the head a couple of times and walks off.
Do we have more info on that? He must have known who he was, right? It had to be planned. I mean, he wouldn't randomly do that. Well, maybe. I don't know.
That early in the morning, right?
Yeah, I think it was early this morning.
What company was he with? I forget.
Dude,
Is it a pharmaceutical?
He was the CEO of a giant healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare company. Yep.
Yeah, nuts.
So you wonder what
Good job, Mayor Adams. No guns in this city.
Yeah.
Well, only
Well,
for criminals.
He's walking back some of his position.
He
now,
is. He's
isn't
starting now.
And as soon as he started to walk back his position on things, do we see what happens? He's got all these new investigations
Oh, of
against him, right?
course.
Isn't he under investigation and indictment for a bunch of stuff? I mean, I don't follow it that closely, but
The left will eat their own.
oh yeah,
As soon as
They're
you
good at
turn,
that.
yeah, they'll attack.
Did
And
Hochul make a press conference and she didn't say anything?
no, well, we're gonna get to something that you wanted to talk
She's
about.
not running on that.
No.
Gotta stop the guns.
You love
Yeah,
her.
you know what's funny about her?
We can't go in the city without the commissioner's written permission, right? Like he's gonna give that to you.
Well,
Hey, commish, can I bring my gun into your city?
And she used to be pro-gun way back in the day.
Yeah.
She used to have a great NRA rating, and she used to be work in the pistol department in I think it was Erie
It's
County.
New York State. We can't go in the city.
But now all of a sudden she's completely different. She gets appointed to the governorship. She wins her second term, which the only reason she won is because she had the Democratic machine behind her.
Right.
And then and total anti-gun, total tyrant. But we could talk about New York gun laws, but we could talk about New Jersey gun laws or Massachusetts gun laws. It's all the same crap. But let's go to a little bit of fun news. This Long Island couple wanted to make Christmas great again with this giant 42-foot, $3,000 inflatable lawn Santa. Do we have a photo of that?
Oh,
It's bigger than the freaking house.
I bet you the HOA didn't like that.
There's got to be some rules against that, right?
we're gonna need you to take that
Well,
down.
a pair of Long Island homeowners are going big for Christmas. Installed the 42-foot inflatable Santa Claus. Farmingdale Dance Studio owner Jacqueline Proskia, 35, said the idea came after her neighbor to the right, who's a nurse named Christina something, said she wanted to make Christmas great again. My husband said to me first, she says, we've got to go make Christmas great again. So that's what they did. That's pretty big.
It's a little overkill, I'm going to say.
You think?
Until the wind takes that bad boy down the street. Santa just came by, Mom.
Does she have an insurance policy for that? Like if it blows away,
You
causes
kill
a car
somebody?
accident?
So,
Oh, my
so how did Bobby die? 42-foot Santa killed him.
Suffocated him. It deflated and suffocated him. Poor Bobby.
Couldn't get out.
Charlie wanted to talk about this. Now, district court judge rules illegal alien cannot be prosecuted for possessing firearms. I got an article here. Did you want me to read some of it, or do you have this in your head? Okay.
Go right ahead.
Judge Sharon Coleman, and then we'll get your commentary on it. Judge Sharon Coleman of the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois last week issued an opinion in U.S. v. Carbajal Flores, finding a federal law making it a crime for an illegal alien to possess a firearm is unconstitutional as applied. District court orders have no precedential effect, but this one both muddies the waters on aliens, criminal liabilities, and further blurs the lines separating the rights of citizens and aliens, setting the case up for a Supreme Court opinion on aliens' constitutional rights. So the whole thing baffles me. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about here, but the whole thing baffles me that they have that there are people who think that illegal aliens should share our rights. Is that what they're saying?
It really sounds like it, but I guess where my issue is as a guy who, small L libertarian, if we talk about these unalienable rights, right? If we have the right to self-defense and we can have guns to protect ourselves, should we let illegal aliens have guns or not have guns? Right? Like this is an issue. Can they protect themselves? Can they not protect themselves? Because we can, we've got the whole, we've got the anti-gun folks that say, well, you don't have to have a gun to be able to protect yourself. You could use a machete or a knife or a sword or whatever, right? But do we let illegal aliens have the same rights that we do? Right? Does the Constitution? Because you hear the people say that and of course, it's all of the anti-gun wackos that are saying, oh, no, human is illegal and all that nonsense. So do we give them the rights that we have, or do we not give them the rights that we
Well,
have?
where are they getting the gun?
Illegally.
No, I know. So you got illegal on top of illegal. I don't know, but I understand your point. Yeah, I get it.
They're here illegally, and they kill people illegally with guns they get illegally. Let's see what's right
Wow.
about this.
So they're basically telling them that if they kill somebody, they can't be federally charged for having a weapon? Is that what they're saying?
Well, yeah, but then it parlays right into the whole what was the guy? the guy that I think he was in Ohio that had 130 guns or something, and he was a migrant, wasn't a U.S. citizen, and he had a successful business, was paying taxes, all this stuff, and he ended up buying a boatload of guns, and then they found out that he didn't have a permit for them, and it was illegal for him to have them. So we're like, here's a guy that's contributing. Should he be able to have guns, or should he not be able to have guns?
Like he got those guns legally? Is that how he got them? How do you buy it if you're not a citizen?
So here's in free America, you don't have to buy guns from gun stores, so people can sell them. Because when people talk about the universal background check, it's you got to do a background check because I'm going to sell a gun to you, and we live in the same state, and so on and so forth. In free America, you don't have to have a permit to buy, purchase, or possess anything. And in free America, you can sell guns to people without having to do a background check and without knowing if they're criminals, right? I did a show with some folks in Georgia a few years ago, and they had some guns that they were going to sell. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to ask, you guys live in Georgia, you guys live in free America, what do you do to sell a gun? And they're like, we find someone who wants it and has cash.
There you go.
Okay, no background check, no paperwork, no... the 4473 has their name on it, but then they sold it to someone else, and they don't keep track of selling it to someone else.
Well, I can see that premise.
I guess this is kind of a complicated situation because, number one, I don't think we should have gun laws at all. I don't think there should be any gun laws. I think if there's a criminal, the criminal should either be in jail if it's bad enough to... Here's the thing. If you do a crime that's so heinous that you lose your rights, your American rights, wouldn't that crime be bad enough to have you in jail? And then if you go through the process of being in jail and you get out, shouldn't you have your rights back?
Right, you should have them restored, right?
But the legal system is so screwed up that they're letting people out early release, bail reform, all this crap, and you got bad guys all over the place, and they're restricting our rights. So I don't think there should be any gun laws. I know that sounds strange because we've normalized gun laws now.
I'm not good with that.
Did our founding fathers have any gun laws?
Not really. No. I mean, the revolution was predicated on some of them pushing gun laws and trying to confiscate the cannon and the powder. So, I don't know. The birth of this country came around, unconstitutional gun laws. I think if you're dealing with a sect of people, it doesn't matter who they are or what. If you've paid your debt to society and you're free, again, like back to what you're saying, like why shouldn't you be fully repatriated with all of your rights? And you get people arguing that are left of center or progressive saying, hey, the people that are getting out of prison, they've been rehabilitated. They should be able to get their right to vote back. And all right. So then why can't we get the gun rights back, the right to be on a jury, all of it? Let's give it all back. They're either a fit element of society or they're not.
Well, they're not. Right, exactly.
And if you're not a fit element of society, get back in the box.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Yeah. So we create all these jail sentences that don't really equal the crime. There's no rehabilitation. There's nothing. They get early release. Sometimes they don't even go to jail, and then you still got bad guys running around.
That's another thing. So they have all these people that commit crimes. The sentences they get are either light or nothing. And you can't sit here and say, well, we need to come down on more people for illegal guns and illegal this and this and this. But then when people commit crimes with guns, you don't have any stiff sentence. There's no incentive for them to not commit crimes again. Right?
Makes no sense.
Right. There's no motivation for them to not do this anymore.
Yeah, but if you're in New Jersey and you make like a paperwork mistake where you fill out a form wrong, they'll throw you in jail and prosecute you if you answer a question wrong about whatever, your history or something like that, and they'll prosecute you. I mean, and then that's insanity.
Well, I think you and I were talking earlier before the show. We're talking about state-to-state reciprocity, and that's another thing that's really gets convoluted and gets complicated. And I think we were talking about Shaneen Allen, the woman from Pennsylvania. She was from Philly.
Philly,
Yep.
yeah.
And she traveled into New Jersey with her licensed Philadelphia handgun, and she got a traffic violation
What did
was.
they call that? It's a super technical term. Is driving
DWB?
driving while black.
Yes,
That she
Oh, was
got
that
pulled
what it
over
was?
for.
DWB, right? It was. I think she said it was an improper lane usage.
Yeah.
Right.
They said an unsafe lane change was garbage. Come on.
Right. It's. I mean, who? Raise your hand if you make a safe lane change.
Don't
Anyone?
want to be following
Especially
me.
in
I'm
Jersey.
on my phone, right?
You ever drive with those nut jobs?
Especially in Jersey.
And at the end of the day, Shanine Allen ends up getting thrown in the clink because she was being honest.
Right.
You know?
She told the cop she had a gun in her purse, and he says, "You can't do that." And she said, "How am I supposed to do this?" And he said, "I don't know, but that's illegal." Right. This is like the old Republican definition of pornography. I know it when I see it. I don't know how you do it, but I know that's illegal. So she spent 48 days in the clink.
She spent all that time in prison not really knowing even what was going on. It's an interesting story too. She finally got proper representation via Evan Nappen because there was like a cellmate of hers or something. Do you remember the story?
I remember her telling me that. She said there were women that were in there. They're like, well, you know, we've beaten, killed our boyfriends and husbands. We deserve to be here, but you don't. So,
well, and gun owners,
Honor among thieves, right?
right.
Gun Owners of America also rallied the troops, and people called in, and they called Governor Christie at the time.
Yep.
And he put some pressure on the prosecutors, so that's what helped. Gun Owners of
She
America
ended up
actually
getting
had
that PTI. She was able to get that pretrial intervention, and she got fully reinvested back with
pardon.
everything.
Right.
It wasn't a pardon. I think she got a PTI, and this was at the same time that Ray Rice beat the heck out of. Was it Ray Rice?
Ray Rice beat the crap out of his girlfriend.
Was
on
that
video in the
It was the
elevator.
same. It was the
hotel
same county. Yeah.
elevator.
It was Atlantic County.
Not the
Atlantic
one
County.
with P. Diddy. That was in the hallway. This was in an elevator.
This was the elevator. Yeah.
Yep. So, Nappen jumped on that. Everyone jumped on that. So it worked out net benefit for her. But honestly, if she didn't have somebody in prison recommending proper representation to her, she would have been done.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Let me get to one of our sponsors real quick, and I want to talk about state-to-state reciprocity again because there's more on this topic. LifeWave is a non-transdermal patch that allows your body to produce its own natural pharmacy, so through light energy. Now, the X39 patch tells your body to emit heat in the form of light, which reflects back into your body, elevating a certain copper peptide. Now, this peptide activates your stem cells, which are the only type that can move throughout your body to heal inflammation. LifeWave offers an affordable membership and has a history of wellness that spans 20 years. It's been around since 2004 to help organizations like SEAL Team 6 and the Olympic swim team stay awake and alert. Now, today, these non-addictive patches are used by thousands of athletes and military professionals. And LifeWave is available in over 80 countries, giving millions the opportunity of maximum wellness. So for more information, testimonials, patents, and studies, go to justpatch.biz. Justpatch.biz. President Trump says he'll sign into law national concealed reciprocity. So I'll take it, but I'll only consider it a stepping stone to constitutional carry. So I shouldn't need a government-issued permission slip to carry a gun, to exercise my God-given right. So I wanted to talk to you guys more on state-to-state reciprocity. First, we have that Trump clip that we were talking about earlier. Now, we're sure that this is from 2016, his first term, I think, right? Let's play this clip.
I will sign concealed carry reciprocity. Your Second Amendment does not end at the state line.
So
There you go.
my problem, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this. My problem with state-to-state reciprocity is there's a couple things. There's a couple little downsides. I'll take it. I think it's going to be a good step in the right direction. But people who come from states that have constitutional carry, they don't need a permit, they're going to now need to get a permit from their state. So there's something to show when they travel through other states. So that would be one little downside. It's probably worth it. But the thing is, I don't want to get too caught up in state-to-state reciprocity because really what we're doing is we're still encouraging more government-issued permission slips. It's just a nationwide permission slip. Why can't we get to constitutional carry?
Well, I think it's as being somebody that's from a damaged state, much like you. I'm from Jersey. You guys are from New York. Charlie's from Massachusetts. I personally can deal with the small inconvenience for the handful of concealed carry. People have constitutional concealed carry for them to have to get a permit because that would be the shoe on the other foot.
I got you.
You know what I mean? Like
They should only know the hell we go through.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Oh, I feel really bad that you finally have to get a permit.
Yeah.
Because right now they need that anyhow. So if you want reciprocity, if you're from Vermont, don't you have to get that permit now to carry that other places? It depends on the.
Vermont is the only state that does not have a permit. They don't.
Correct.
They have nothing.
That's why I brought Vermont up.
So I was
Vermont
thinking,
carry.
right. I was thinking this when you were bringing this up. Would a driver's license suffice? A driver's license shows your residency. So should somebody say, "Hey, listen, in my state, I'm from a permitless carry state. I don't have to have government permission. Here's my driver license
would be a
to
good
show you that
solution.
I'm from a
Charlie
another
Cook.
state."
Charlie
have
Cook
it
just
put-
figured
or
it
have
out.
them write constitutional carry state on their license.
Oh, they'll never do that.
No, I'm
You
just
kidding?
saying something, or even put permit on it. You know, concealed carry,
True United States.
something.
Nice, the real United States.
Well, you guys, we all travel a lot up
Yeah.
and down the East Coast. It's like hell getting up and down. If I'm driving down to Myrtle Beach or something or Florida, it's complicated because you don't know what states have what laws. Do you need the gun in the glove box, in the trunk, whatever? Go ahead.
Right. No, John and I have been on road trips before, and we can't carry anything in New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware. And we were in Virginia, right? We were in Virginia, and you're like, well, we can't pull over in a rest area because that's still government property. We had to wait until we got to a friggin' McDonald's parking lot before we could
I
put our
think it was
guns
a
in.
Chick-fil-A. It was a Chick-fil-A. It was a Chick-fil-A because somebody was like very hungry. I was like, we need to get gas. We're like, well, there's a Chick-fil-A over there.
As long
So-
as it's not too far off
It's
the
not
exit,
too-
that's
yeah.
fine.
So if you're
Running
traveling,
across the highway.
if you're traveling ever, and we should do this, we should get a big RV and all of us take the loaded mic on the road for like maybe our 5 or 10 year Christmas special. And if you have to use the restroom and you get off at an exit and the restroom is more than a mile off of the exit, Charlie makes you turn around and get back on the highway.
Are you guys
So,
with me on this?
so you might be driving forever. And I remember we finally stopped at this gas station, and there was a ridiculously long line for the restroom. And there was a guy that refused. The guy that was in the front of the line refused to go into the woman's room. I'm like, dude, just go. It's right there. Nobody's looking. Nobody's going to say anything. Meanwhile, Charlie's in the back peeing behind a dumpster.
There was a car wash.
Gotta do what you gotta
Right?
do, right?
It's drains. It's all drains.
It's all
Like that,
drains.
yeah, exactly. Seinfeld. Did you ever hear of holding it in?
What was I supposed to do? Get out of the shower, put on my bathrobe, go all the way down to the other end, come all the way back?
Did you ever hear of holding it in?
I was holding it in. So what the deal is this? So in my justification, once you get off the highway, the bladder clock starts working. And you know what I mean?
Wait till you
Like
get
the
a little
bladder-
older and see how that is.
Is that
I'm
a
at
going-
that point.
Is that a going problem or a growing problem, Charlie?
All right, before we get on urinary, habits, I want to show this one map of constitutional carry before we
Perfect.
go.
Well, let's do it.
There are 29 states right now that have constitutional carry. All those states in green do not require a permit for handgun.
Unbelievable.
So we're doing good. I mean, 29.
No,
We're the
and I think we are, and I think it's a very interesting issue, and like you brought it up, and we were talking about it earlier, like what permits do you have to get you where you need to be, and like Charlie, and you could talk about this. You're going through the process to get your Jersey permit. So, but if we're gonna say go south, we could carry in Jersey. Well, once Charlie gets his permit and I get a permit that's not restricted because that's a whole nother ball of
Oh my
wax.
God.
Yeah. So we could carry in Jersey and in Delaware, but then you get to Maryland and the DC Beltway, but then you're back into Virginia. But then once you hit Virginia, you're like
You're pretty
almost
good. Yeah.
smooth sailing.
not if you live in
across-
New York though. I think North Carolina was a problem until I got my Florida license.
Right.
I think
Yeah, well,
Florida
so
freed up one of the Carolinas for
I'm
me.
gonna assume you have like at least a Florida permit to go with it, and you're pretty much. And North Carolina is going to be probably the last constitutional carry state that enters into permitless carry willingly. I think any other state that ends up becoming a permitless carry state, it's going to be, against their wishes.
Yeah.
But I think North Carolina is probably the last holdout.
Can we see that map one more time?
Lauren.
Oh, we had a little clip there of Charlie.
How did I get on there?
Oh, you're going to be on.
Hey now.
So what do we have there? We have on the East Coast, we have Virginia and then North Carolina. Yeah, so North Carolina and Virginia. You know, Jersey's always tough for me, being from New York. Coming down through Jersey's, you never know. You want to make sure you lock it up and put it in the trunk or whatever. I know it's
I always
crazy.
tell people if they're driving through New York City, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C., I always tell people if you're on the Merritt Parkway in Connecticut, there's a gas station about a quarter of a mile from the New York border. Stop, go to the bathroom, get a Dunkin' Donuts, get a coffee, check, get some gas, check your lights, all that sort of
Lock up
stuff.
your gun.
Right, lock up your gun, and then when you're driving through New York City, New Jersey, and D.C., let people merge in front of you. Follow or stay with the flow of traffic and don't flip anybody off. You should be fine.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be a good boy with driving through there. It's just terrible. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go to just a quick break. We'll be right back after this with more of the Christmas extravaganza.
The Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR, empower yourself, and defend your civil rights.
Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org. All right, we're back, and we wanted to talk about. We talk about New York, New Jersey, all these bad, Massachusetts, all these awful states with blue governors. So when we're talking about immigrants and stuff like that, now Eric Adams is actually starting to change his position a little bit on immigrants because he's getting overwhelmed in New York City. Hochul said that she would be the first to call up ICE to deport immigrants who break the law. So
Didn't they break the law getting in here?
Exactly. So the governor says she supports immigrants with legal papers. What is an immigrant with legal papers?
Well, I think they've made the asylum thing so stupid simple
courier?
that they just hand you something, right? Is that what they do when you come in?
So
and you
that's their
say you're
legal
trying
paper?
for asylum. They just give you paperwork, and you have. I mean, otherwise, how are they shipping people all over the country? How are they vetting these people?
They're not. They're not. I used to think that it'd be great if the government said, "Hey, we need to get rid of these illegal aliens. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give tax incentives to airlines to ship them back to their country." Right? This doesn't cost the government money. The airlines will get some tax incentives, some tax breaks. Perfect.
I say we do the the Alien versus Predator dynamic, and let them earn their keep.
Right.
Alien versus Predator.
Well, Hochul says that she's going to work with she's going to cooperate with the Trump administration to remove immigrants who break the law. So as President-elect Donald Trump promises mass deportations of millions of immigrants across the country, Governor Kathy Hochul indicated on Tuesday that New York State will cooperate to at least some extent with federal immigration authorities. I don't know what that means, but Anthony wanted to tell us more about this, I guess.
Well, like just 2 weeks ago, she was saying he ain't coming into my state.
Yeah.
What changed?
Money.
Exactly. So see how she is. She talks a great. Her and that dirtbag AG talk a lot of crap.
Oh God,
But
Letitia
once
James.
someone says they're taking your funding away, well, I'll do whatever you want, and that's just crazy.
It's insane that they say, well, the first illegal act we'll accept, but the second one,
Whoa, now that's too much. Jumping the border, breaking into our country illegally. Well,
that's not so bad. What, you gonna steal stuff from people too? Come on.
It's so obvious that it's all for votes. I mean, who in their right mind would put American citizens at such risk? And all these, when you think about the whole immigration thing, the whole illegal immigration thing, it's like, how did we sit by and just watch this thing happen for 4 years? It's
Plus, we're thinking, looking to Europe for guidance, right? And we see all the
God.
chaos that's going on over there. You think people would learn?
I think they're down to butter knives at this point, aren't they?
Yeah.
Only if they're plastic.
They're sharper than the metal ones.
Right, some of them are, yeah.
But they need
Very
a
abrasive.
compostable plastic.
Well,
By the time you're done with your meal, it's melted.
Where my knife
All
go?
the little plastic nubs are off in your food somewhere.
Your knife has deactivated. It's gone. Put a quarter in to re-up it. Oh, here's my knife.
could this be her trying to change position like Eric Adams? What are your thoughts?
Well, look at Eric Adams. What, his personal assistant got jumped and robbed
Oh yeah.
over the weekend by an immigrant. So
Thanksgiving.
does he go or does he stick around? And Hochul's just I don't know.
I think there's a big populist movement, a big, maybe slight to right of center movement, right? I think that's obvious.
All over the world.
Yeah, all over the world. And you can see it being fought and the friction in different areas of the world. But I think slowly the people are starting to wise up in the U.S. I'd like to think so. If you look at the pendulum, and this is something that Sandy Berardi and Anthony Colangelo always talk about on Gun for Hire, is the 80-year cycles. And the 80-year cycle was supposed to end, I believe, in 2023, where the pendulum was swinging from the we to the back to the me, where we're more focused on individual liberties versus these collective rights where everyone kumbayas. I made the argument a number of years ago that in 2020, both Donald Trump and the pandemic helped accelerate this shift back towards, I'd say normalcy. And of course, Berardi and Colangelo's position on it was, well, one of the other things that usually happens is also a big war. But we could look at the pandemic as really being kind of a war on the people, because that's really what it was. Yeah. But I think people are done with it. I think they're tired. And I think some of your smarter politicians are going to either shut their mouths or maybe make these small micro changes like with Hochul and Adams. Well, Adams, I think he figured it out.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, before, that now he's under investigation or all this stuff because he's changing his tune.
Yeah. Stepped over the fence, Well, like I mentioned earlier, that Mike Benz on Joe Rogan interview, he talked about a lot of that. He was talking about all the South American countries, how in 2016, 14 through 16, a lot of these things started to change, where, again, it's going from whatever the ruling class is, top down, to like rights of the people, because normal people care about that, hopefully.
You have Donald Trump was a lifelong Democrat. You have RFK Jr., who is, I think it's safe to say, is the definition of a Kennedy Democrat.
Absolutely.
And what are these guys? They're now on the GOP. They're now right of center. It's not that, politics have changed so much on the right. It's just that the progressive movement has gotten so bad that it's taken people that were more moderate and said, no, we've got to be quote unquote conservative. And I don't really fancy these guys staunch conservatives, but when you get like your Joe Rogan, coming over and switching sides and, again, Kennedy, I think that's an indicator. Like, that's a canary in the coal mine. That should tell us something.
Well, what's funny is the left has been saying, well, they realize that we on the right, on the I guess right side of the media, we have now all these new podcasts and new shows and new networks and new new celebrities and people who are doing this stuff, and like Joe Rogan. And they said, well, we need a Joe Rogan. We need, so they're trying to scramble around to get a Joe Rogan. But the problem is, Joe Rogan said, I'm right here. I've always been here.
Why do they need another Joe Rogan?
Because they need...
Because they want somebody on their side.
That's
right.
right.
The whole viewpoint. You got to be in our team, then it's all good. If you're not on our team...
And Joe Rogan, he'll interview anybody.
Right.
He'll talk to anybody. He's like the old school, he's like almost...
He was a lefty.
William F. Buckley.
He started
he'll interview anybody,
Except Zelensky. People are saying, how come it's not fair? He's not interviewing Zelensky. And I'm like,
But what John just said, they still don't get it. Because we have Joe Rogan.
oh my God. It's
They have him, but they still want somebody who's going to preach their
because they don't want to have
ideology.
conversations. They want to have consensus. They don't want you to. They don't want to hear anything. A couple people this last week, though, finally were saying, well, I'll listen. What are you talking about? Thank God, crack in the armor, finger in the dike, whatever. You know, it's like, let's go. Let's just have these conversations. And that's what it's about.
Did you say dyke?
You're talking about Massachusetts?
Oh. No, you're right.
I like Massachusetts.
You're right. You're right. They don't.
I was there last week.
They don't want that honest conversation because that honest conversation scares them. That's why they lost.
Well, I mean, take a look at Bill Maher. Bill Maher is a left-wing wacko, and now he's a little bit more centrist because they've gone so far to the left that they're like, oh, Maher's a conservative. He's not. Not at all.
I don't even mind listening.
Say stuff. He's willing to get himself in trouble, basically, by saying stuff. But at least that, again, stimulates the conversations that need to be had. I don't know why everybody's so afraid to talk about. Well, again, that Mike Benz thing, talking about all the censorship that happened and how people don't want these people saying things and these people saying things. And I'm like, that's the First Amendment. That's why you're able to have your opinion, is because we have that amendment. It's not just for you and not for somebody else.
Right. And it's calling it even. The left wings have all of the major news outlets except for Fox News, and sometimes Fox News sometimes they're questionable too, right?
Absolutely.
So how do we have to make it more even? Like there's more left wing news outlets than there are right wing news outlets, but there's one that's sort of right wing-ish, and they're like, well, what about Fox News? I don't know. What about CNN? What about MSNBC? What about ABC? What about all the, Rachel Maddow? Ugh. What about right?
Well, it's
Little boy.
Have a compromise, right? Like, oh, let's have a compromise. And then you look at the freedom-minded people, and every time the word compromise comes up, what do you end up with? It's like trying to barter with your girlfriend and say, the compromise would be this. Let's make love once a day. That's the compromise. And she'd say, well, what do you mean? That's not a compromise at all. Well, from my point of view, it is.
Yeah, because I like.
I mean, so I'm just saying, though. So, like, what's the compromise? That's like would be a real compromise versus every other week and,
birthdays and holidays.
Birthdays and holidays, C&E, right? Christmas and Easter.
Come here, Santa.
But you know what I'm saying is when you talk about compromise, it always leads to the liberty-minded person losing rights. It never turns into a compromise of we're going to give you these rights. And I think that's a big umbrella, and it's not just the gun thing; it's everything.
It's everything.
It is. I'm sure you guys have heard the one about the it's similar to like the cake analogy. Like if I've got a cake and you want some of my cake, you say, hey, listen, can I have a piece of your cake? I said, no, I don't want you to have my cake. It's my cake. And you're like, well, what if you just give me a quarter of the cake? Well, no. Okay, well, how about an eighth of a cake? Well, why do I have to give you any cake? It's my cake. I'm not getting anything by giving you my cake.
But I could pay you for cake, and that's capitalism. Heaven forbid that.
Right. Unless you're my girlfriend and you're going to go back with my compromise of once a day.
You're mixing all those things together, John.
Why would we barter?
Right.
Well, there's always got to be some kind of exchange. I mean, you got to have something. That's what capitalism's all about. I mean, you give something and you get something. Otherwise, it's a one-sided. It's socialism, taking away from the rich to give to the poor or whatever.
So you don't have any rich left, then you're screwed.
I just love the people who left X because Elon took it over because now there's free speech.
Yeah, where'd they go?
Well, it's ludicrous.
I know a guy.
They went to Blue Sky, right?
That's crazy.
Isn't it Blue Sky?
Scott Adams says Blue Sky statistically has way more mentally incapacitated people than any other platform ever. People on medications, people in therapy.
That's funny.
Great.
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about the mainstream media. I don't know if Charlie or John was talking about it, but MSNBC has lost so much viewership that, what's her name, Mika and Joe Scarborough went to Mar-a-Lago to talk to Trump to try to say, can we do something here about this?
Kiss the ring.
Right. And
that's the same thing with the Washington. Was it the Washington Times? Was it Bezos? What does he own?
He
We
owns
got New York-
Amazon, but
we got New York-
Zuckerberg.
No, but which paper does he own?
New York
Oh,
Times and Washington Post.
Washington. Was it the Post?
The Times is the right wing. All I can remember is G. Gordon Liddy going, the Washington Times. So it's the Post.
So you got New York Times, and Washington Post, which are the left wing.
Okay, so Bezos owns, I think, the Post, right? And they didn't endorse anybody in the last election, right? And people were, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So people were all up in arms. Oh, you can't, you're not going to endorse and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's because he's a smart businessman. He figured it out. He figured out that they're alienating not just 50% of the population, probably more than 50% of the population.
Sure.
Because again, this ideal of individual liberties and free thought and non-censorship, it goes into the left too. I mean, there's people who are left of center that are more libertarian that are like, this is crazy. They get it, like, because it's nuts.
Nuts.
Yeah, it's Michael. Somebody asked Michael Jordan about endorsing a presidential candidate one time, and he's like, "Why? Everybody buys sneakers."
Exactly.
Why do I want to put myself
Bingo.
on the
Right.
Well, they want you to
keep-
virtue signal. You know, that's what they want. They want the consensus. Everybody agrees that this is bad. Let's get everybody to say this is bad, and that'll be better. Okay, you get Taylor Swift, you get Bruce Springsteen, you get everybody else endorsing people. What good does it do?
I know.
Obviously,
I know.
like-
Anthony wants to talk about the celebrities.
Well, it's like the NFL with the whole stop hate. It takes all of us. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Show me the hate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. I'm oppressed running down the field making $200-300 million.
Right.
Stop yourself.
Stop the racism.
Who's hating you?
And then they have end racism. And,
Yeah, it's
Right,
Like,
so
what-
if-
It's just
show
propaganda.
Show me where it is in the NFL where racism is someone running down the field screaming it.
I'm waiting to see America First on the back of one of
That's
those
never
helmets.
going to happen.
It's great that the end zone says end racism, and if you're from another country, you watch this, you're like, oh my God, there must be some racism problem over the United States, right? But of course, didn't the guy get in trouble about 3 weeks ago for wearing a Trump shirt at an NFL stadium or something?
Nick Bosa got fined $117,000 for wearing a MAGA hat.
Unbelievable.
A player?
San Francisco 49ers.
But what's everybody doing when they score a touchdown?
Trump
They're
dance.
doing the Trump dance.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let me get to one of our sponsors real quick, guys, and we'll get right back to it. You want to know who's fighting for your gun rights? Gun Owners of America. Now, GOA is the no-compromise gun rights group, so I urge you to become a member at gunowners.org. Well, what have they done? Well, GOA secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. GOA members submitted a record 80,000-plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida. GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero-tolerance policy, and GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with the constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, well, what can I do about it? This is what you can do. You can become a member at gunowners.org and help us save the Second Amendment.
So, Charlie, you said something about the touchdowns, right? The Trump dance. I don't think I know what that is. Maybe.
You don't know the Trump dance?
No, maybe.
Maybe can you do?
You know the Trump dance.
No, I don't.
You need to show us.
Show us the Trump dance.
Show us the
I'm
Trump
not,
dance.
well,
Come on.
I'm
I
not
don't
asking for the
dance.
truffle
I'm an
shuffle. I'm asking for the Trump dance.
I'm an award-winning dancer. I don't dance.
Well, if Charlie won't do the Trump dance, we'll have to show you some video of him doing another type of performance.
Oh, my God.
Well, if that's queued up, I mean, I don't know.
This is-
I didn't look at the show notes. I'm going to be honest with you, so I don't know what's coming.
I don't either. I just
Actually,
do everything's
this
a
is-
surprise for me.
Probably the most unique thing a lot of people are ever going to see if they haven't seen Charlie Cook in action already.
Is this his
Are you
OnlyFans?
naked?
This is my OnlyFans. It's not really see the action.
It's not OnlyFans. They're called gun grams. And when I first met Charlie and I heard about it, I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? He does songs with guns? I couldn't understand it. And then I saw the video, which you're going to see right now, and you're going to be amazed. This is really cool. And this one happens to be very festive. So let's play that clip of Charlie Cook.
Hi, Mom, Dad, Dustin, and Baba. Hope you have a Merry Christmas. Lauren loves you guys. Merry Christmas.
Awesome, Charlie.
I love it, man. I love it.
How did you ever get the idea to do that? Like,
I don't have any friends.
me in my backyard.
Right. No, I was talking with I very much like you. I spent a lot of years playing in a band and gigging and doing all this sort of stuff. And those days are long gone. And I would hang out with one of my friends, and he's like, "Dude, whenever you talk about doing gigs and playing for people and all the gigging days, he's like, you get that little sparkle in your eye." And he says you get the same sparkle in your eye when you talk about gun stuff. So he's like, what if you played the trumpet with one hand and shot a gun with the other, and you played bum ba da da da, and I'm like, that is ridiculous. So I went home and worked in one-handed reloading, and I played the Blue Danube in 2014, 10 years ago. I played the Blue Danube waltz, shooting women, playing that trumpet with one hand, shooting the Glock with the other, and I did a one-handed mag change in about, I don't know, a second and a half, I think. And then at the end I put the Glock down. I picked up a revolver to finish the song off. And so I did that in 2014, and it went nowhere. And then in 2015, I did a happy birthday for a friend of mine's son's birthday party. And then people were just like, "Hey, these are really cool. Can you do the one for me? Can you do this song? Can you do this?"
And that's the really cool part, because once that catches on, now you got a lot of people who want gun grams.
It's nuts. I've had people in every continent except Antarctica watch these. So when I go to my day job, I always tell people I'm the world famous Mr. Cook, and they're like, "You're not famous." I'm like, "I know, that's why I'm still here, you bastards."
Awesome. That's awesome. But a lot of people, it's because it's never been done. It's like just one of those things that's just so crazy when you see it for the first time. I was like, this is just nuts.
It is nuts. So I'm sure you guys have seen The Gun Drummer, right? Because The Gun Drummer has a lot more views than I do. He shoots ARs, plays the drums, throw the drumsticks up, and grabs a couple ARs and he plays heavy metal tunes, so more people, obviously dig that than playing the trumpet, for God's sakes. But he's been up for a Gundy for the last couple of years, and the most innovative and the most creative. And I'm like, I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, man. And I look at this and I'm like, anybody that can keep time should be able to shoot in rhythm, right? But to play trumpet with one hand and shoot in the other hand, it's a little bit more work.
So how can people find you?
They can find them on YouTube. If they just look for Gungram, Gungram. I got a whole YouTube channel. I got 300 videos. I've been playing the shorts game for a few months now. I think I made about $300 in about 3 months. So it's kind of fun, kind of cool. I sit there and I'm like, I'm trying to set something up so every morning at 6 in the morning, some YouTube short of some video comes up. So now that we're in December, I can go to all my Christmas tunes and recycle all those.
Now I'm going to ask John Petrolino for his contact information for people to find you as well, but we're not done yet. I just want to make the announcement that we are we're going to wrap it up here for the live feed and for some of our networks, but we're going to continue on. We've got a lot more to talk about, and we're going to continue on, and you can find the full episode at Rumble. You can go to loadedmic.com, and you'll be able to find it on Rumble and YouTube. But right now, Johnny, before we go, how can people find you?
You can find me online at thepenpatriot.com, and I'm always looking for tips and information, so you can email me at john@thepenpatriot.com, and then Pen Patriots on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram, J Petrolino III. But really, thepenpatriot.com is kind of the clearinghouse.
We've got a lot more though coming up, so we're gonna see you later, or we'll see you over on one of the other networks for the full episode. Thanks for watching. If you're watching our live feed, Merry Christmas, and we will see you next week. All right, so now continuing on. We're not done yet.
But wait,
there's more. We got some really good stuff coming up here. Now, I wanted to actually, John, you're next on the chopping block here.
Nice.
So you and I talked a lot about gun laws being racist and all the stuff that's going on with respect to New Jersey. And you want to just fill us in on that?
Yes. So earlier this year, Well, I guess I got to back up to the year before. Last year, Attorney General Matthew Platkin had made this announcement that they're going to be collecting all of this anonymized data on permits to carry in the state of New Jersey. And if you recall from last year, we were talking about, the number of permits that are getting issued. And the year before that was, we were actually getting permits. So you could see the evolution here. Well, this anonymized data that they, wanted to collect is to show, for whatever reason, they made this dashboard to show how many permits are getting issued and all of the demographics and all of that information. So this dashboard became available earlier this year, and I would say maybe in, I think it was in April. And the first thing that we found with the dashboard was the denials, more than 50% of the denials are using a subjective standard. And this is something that you and I talked about. And the subjective standard that's still on the books in New Jersey is they can deny you of getting a permit to carry if they feel it's not in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare, and that the applicant lacks the proper temperament in order to possess or carry or own a firearm.
So is this a way around, sorry to interrupt, but I got to get this question. Is this a way around the law by, well, let me ask it this way. Is this now considered a may issue, or is it still shall issue with this new little twist?
So yes and no. And the reason I say that is this public health, safety, welfare standard has always been in New Jersey's law. So that's been there for firearms ID card, for purchaser permits, all of that. So that's existed. When they did the Bruin response law going back to 2022, that was enacted in December of 2022, that Bruin response law, they added the portion where they said the person lacks the proper temperament. So they did make it kind of a little supersized. Was that their answer to try to, add more subjectivity to it where we got rid of our justifiable need? No.
Who's the arbiter of temperament?
Exactly. So it's the issuing authorities. And since it's a subjective standard,
Anthony is.
And one of the and these are the things that we're finding. I reported on a couple of weeks ago, there was a guy that was denied his permit to carry because of traffic violations. There was another guy that got denied because, well, actually he got red flagged because he went to his mayor and said it's taking forever for the issuing authority to issue my permit. So they red flagged him and they confiscated all of his guns. So there's still a lot of shenanigans going on. What we found was we're digging into the information, and one of the things that seemed to be missing from the dashboard, and this is conversations that I had with other people far smarter than me, couldn't find this information either. And this was on the race demographics on, who was being issued and who was being denied permits. So I issued out a Open Public Record Act's request to the Attorney General's office seeking the race data, and they got back to me and they said, well, this is how you access the data. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if the data was ever there. I don't think it was. I don't know if it was something that they turned on after I requested it. But like I said, plenty of people could not find this data, and that's what caused me to do the Open Public Records Act request, which is basically a FOIA, like a Freedom of Information Act request. What did we find? I found that more than double the rate of denials, black applicants were denied more than double whites. And then further, just under the subjective standard, I think it was something like 2.2 or 2.5%, 2.5 times more black denials than whites under a subjective standard that has no statutory definition.
No definition. I was going to ask. So what do they get in a response? What do they say to them? You've been denied because
not in the interest of public health, safety, welfare, and you don't have the right temperament.
So you can't even dispute anything because they don't really give you
dispute it. But I mean, not at that level.
You can't say that's not true.
Right.
Because they didn't give you a reason in the first place.
Right. And this is a story that I've been following all year. And one of the issuing authorities that I had reached out to because I went and sent letters to every single issuing authority that's using a subjective standard and said, hey, I want comment on this. Like, why are you guys using this? It's against the Bruin. It's against footnote number 9, which footnote number 9 says, quotes the Shuttleworth rule where that, the standards are supposed to be narrow and objective, not broad and subjective, right? You can't have the gun because you're addicted to narcotics, or you can't have the gun because you're, a felon. Not because you have a bad driving record or because you went to your mayor or because of whatever, right? And that's what's going on, and that's what's happening to people. So one of the issuing authorities that I started having a conversation with, and I'm digging with them and I'm emailing back and forth, and they're like, we don't really understand what you're asking about. The standard is this. It's not in the interest of public health, safety, welfare standard. I'm like, well, I want a definition. And they turn around and say, well, we can't come up with a catch-all for this. It's every situation's going to be different. And that's exactly one of the interest balance and case-by-case determinations that, Heller and Bruin, all of this says is not allowed. You're not allowed to levy constitutional rights like this.
So what about court cases in Jersey fighting this?
So court cases in Jersey fighting this. That actual statute is being challenged in the, I think it's the Siegel case. So there's two lawsuits in New Jersey that are attacking the
subjective or whatever.
Well, attacking the Bruin response law, right? So we had the Bruin response law where they changed our sensitive locations and all of the nonsense that we talked about in the past. So there's the Siegel case and the Coons case. The Siegel case was a much more broad case, and that was brought on by the Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs. Now, the Coons case, that was a little bit more narrow. It was supposed to get in there quick and dirty, but that case is a Second Amendment Foundation case, a Firearms Policy Coalition case, and a couple of other partners that got in on that. What ended up happening is the two cases were combined. So they had oral arguments on that case for a preliminary injunction on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. It was October 25th of last year. So we still haven't even heard on the preliminary injunction for the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. We're still sitting on portions of a preliminary injunction in the federal district court. But Siegel does reference that part of the statute and being something that needs to be challenged. But any actual facial challenges where they say, hey, this is a person that's been damaged by it, that hasn't happened yet. There are people that are working on appealing denials. Like there's a number of cases that are out there where it's like, hey, they were denied, but none of it has been really attacked from the racial aspect yet. But again, those numbers are damning. And the thing that's interesting is since I've started tracking this, because I've reached out to the Attorney General's office and they've given out no guidance to issuing authorities on this. They will not, give comment about the black denial rate. They, even after they were alerted about it, still they won't give guidance saying don't be racist. None of that's happening. The rate of black denials in comparison to white denials has only gone up since I started tracking this, earlier this year. So it's getting worse. And like I said, I've been following this for probably about 6 months. The ACLU doesn't care. The NAACP doesn't care. What's his name? Sharpton and his group, they don't care. Black Lives Matter doesn't care. I've reached out to all of these organizations and nobody cares.
The ones that you would think would care about black people being denied whatever are the really, they don't care because really what they're concerned with is left-right politics. They're not concerned.
Fit their narrative of
Right.
argument.
And the Governor Murphy's office declined to comment, so much so that they didn't even reply to any of my comments. And I wrote to Governor Murphy's office 3 of his press contacts 3 times, so that's 9 pieces of correspondence, nothing. And then I sent a letter, snail mail letter to Trenton, to the governor, which went unacknowledged. So they don't want to look at this. They don't want to hear about it. And to be fair, which honestly there is no fairness because we're talking about a constitutional right. So if it saves just one, right? Our denials since Bruin are under 300 denials in the whole state. That's not that bad. But you say that to the people that are denied and they're having their lives upturned because they can't get their permit to carry. And what was happening was, prior to a case, there was a case called MU, and this is an Evan Knappen case. Prior to this MU case, people were getting their firearms confiscated if they were getting denied permits based on this subjective standard. So, like, you could have went through the process to go and get your pistol purchaser permits or your firearms ID cards. It's all the same exact standards. And what happened with this MU case was they dug into this guy's history and something that was expunged. So this is something that's not even in the history anymore. He had an expungement, and they said, no, we're denying your paperwork. I believe it was for more pistol purchaser permits or maybe an FID card. It doesn't really matter what document it was. It's all the same standard. They moved to go and confiscate all of his guns because they said, well, he's no longer, a qualified person. And that lawsuit, they successfully stopped that from happening. So at least now they can't just go in there and automatically take firearms, but that's what they were doing. So now prosecutors might move to have your guns removed from you, but how is that fair? You were good enough to buy them, but now you can't carry them, so we're going to move to have them confiscated.
And not to mention the fact that handguns are used to save lives millions of times per year in America, and all they're really doing is denying good people from protecting themselves and their families.
Well, if the people that want to enact, real change in the country, they want to save lives. And ironically, if you look at our medical field, they're very vehemently anti-gun. They're doing everything in their power to disarm us. If people really wanted to save lives, they would start with going after doctors who have medical malpractice and medical mistakes, because that's the number one killer of people, are medical mistakes. Then let's look at the obesity issue in the country. I don't have to say that that's an issue. I mean, some of us might be somewhat afflicted, but, we want to save lives. I don't think it's going to be with the gun violence thing. Like, there's so many other ways to save lives than going after a constitutional right, especially when statistically 2/3 of the deaths due to firearms are due to suicide. So come on.
Although these people you're talking about that are being denied, they're not going and applying for their gun permit so they can go out and shoot people.
No.
It's just ridiculous.
And here's the thing. Even if, let's say you were a criminal, but you're applying for your permit to carry, I think that's pretty brazen. I mean, at least they're trying.
They're following the law.
I mean, they're trying.
Well, on a different note, we usually give people on the show a virtual knuckle sandwich when they deserve it. But in this next clip, I just thought it'd be funny. Let's bring back the Christmas spirit. This little kid decides he's going to give Santa a knuckle sandwich uppercut for putting him on the naughty list.
That's why you're on the naughty list.
I will swear, trust me.
Well, that's why you're on the naughty list, because you're being naughty right now. So you're going to be on the naughty list if you keep talking like that.
No, because Father Christmas is not being very nice to me.
Because you're being naughty, so you're on the naughty list.
No, I'm not. I'm on the good list, actually.
You're not, because you ain't being good.
I am on the good list. If you keep saying that word again and again and again, I'm not on naughty list.
Father Christmas rang me last night when I was at work and said, you better tell Jackson to start being a good boy or he's going to stay on the naughty list and he won't get no presents for Christmas. That's what he said to me. So you got to start being a good boy.
And I will do an uppercut to him.
No, you won't do. No, what?
Punch his beard off.
Punch his beard off.
You're just silly, man.
Hey, trust me, I'm not on bad list.
You're on the naughty list, mate.
No, I'm not.
Well, then be a good boy.
I just thought that was funny. Did you see that before? Yeah. Oh, punch his beard off. Oh, man. Naughty list. So the kid gave Santa a knuckle sandwich.
I think that was from Old York, not from New York.
Yeah.
Knuckle sandwich.
Anyway. So, well, we can wrap up. Did you want to wrap up on your topic?
Well, I think it's something has to give eventually, and the standard itself is being used disproportionately to deny all people the right to carry in New Jersey, because more than 50% of the denials are subjective. They're not for a statutorily defined criminal element or disqualifier. And then on top of it, it's being used at a rate more than double. I think it's 2.8 was the last time I looked at it, maybe in September. And if you're interested in that topic, I mean, I've got my presentation from GRPC is on my YouTube page. I covered this in my GRPC presentation.
So how do people find it?
The Penn Patriot on YouTube, and if you go in there, you'll find the video. It's not buried too deeply. It was in September or October, something like that, by the time it got up. So
awesome.
I talk about all that there.
Well, keep up the good work on that in Jersey, and we're trying to change things in our respective states. I know Charlie's working in Massachusetts, and I don't even know which one is worse, New York, Massachusetts, or Jersey.
It goes back to putting the finger in the dike. You got to hold back.
It's weird. I did a sound gig a couple weeks ago in Massachusetts from some clients of mine, right?
Yeah.
They come to the studio, and after the show, the girl singer comes up to me. She goes, we won. And I go, why are you whispering? She goes, because the drummer and the bass player are big lefties, and we can't say anything in front of them. I'm like, okay. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, Trump derangement syndrome hasn't faded yet, and some are even thinking of new lies to accuse their political opposition with. So fortunately, times are changing quick, and the cancel culture wokesters are now the ones being canceled. The hunted are quickly becoming the hunters because they finally had enough. And I thought this day would never come. Check out this. So this woman here, kind of pretty, huh? She is an Idaho salon owner, and she has a beauty salon, and she's seeing customers drop like flies after she called supporters of President-elect Donald Trump racist, homophobic, and misogynistic in a now TikTok, viral TikTok. So she said Trump basically gave small men the ability and the courage to be misogynistic and hateful, and says crap like your body, my choice, and you won't have a choice, and you will bear my child whether you like it or not. When have you ever heard a guy say
Sounds just like it. I just said that yesterday.
She goes on.
I'm sure it goes over well.
She goes on to say these comments are so gross. The things men say to women are gross. This is the projection stuff that you and I talk about a lot. They're making stuff up in their own head. She goes, and I don't know why more men don't come to the defense of women. I don't know why men witness aggression towards women and stand idly by and do nothing. I don't understand, the 40-year-old added.
See, this is another great example of somebody says something to you, you say something to that person. That's a conversation. That's whatever. These people make it into some gigantic thing like men do this and men do that. And like, walk me through that, First of all, how many men do you actually know? 20, 30, maybe? How many men do you know?
Well, it says, and this is a New York Post article, it says here, the divorced mother of three.
Oh, there you go.
You wonder why she's divorced. Suggests that men usually shrug it off when another man is mistreating a woman. This is stuff
Is
that
that how it went down? Was she forced to bear the children?
That's right. So really, let's face it. If women have equal rights and women can do everything that men can do, and women can do things better, then she should be sticking up for herself.
Absolutely.
Right? Like she shouldn't need a man to come stick up for
Get
her.
a gun, stand up for yourself.
There you go.
She says, I don't understand why more men don't have the courage to stick up to these small men who think they can do whatever they want and say whatever they want to women, and I'm just effing sick of it. She's obviously got delusion. She's delusional. She's
That's
got
what I'm
this
always
stuff.
looking to do when I go out. Is like, what women can I stand up for here? What kind of fight can I get in for some woman
bothering you?
who I don't even know?
Right.
So it didn't take long for the businesswoman in the deep red state to find herself in a hairy situation with many other patrons. She says, so this is me suffering the consequences of my own actions. I just had a client send her husband into my salon and demand a refund for gift cards pre-purchased because of my stance that if you support a racist, homophobic, misogynist, rapist, and you're okay with those things because you supported them, that you are in fact those things, she explained in a subsequent video. And she was so offended by that, he said, and she was so offended by that, he said she did not feel comfortable coming into my salon anymore. So,
uno momento, por favor. So, the husband's wife. Let's assume the husband's wife is this lady's client, and she wants a refund, right? So, what does the man do? He goes in and sticks up for his wife.
Exactly.
Yeah, good
He's
point.
doing exactly what she wants. He goes in on behalf of his wife and says, "Hey, listen, I spent a bunch of money here. I want my money back." And now she's upset about that.
Yeah.
Well, she got what she wanted.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah. It's just, but the point that I saw, I guess the whole thing that I saw in this thing is that, they're so desperate now that they're making stuff up. Like, how many of these theoretical or hypothetical guys have you seen ever? I mean, we're a bunch of guys. I don't have any friends who do that to their wives. I mean,
Not in front of us.
Go out of my way to tell my wife she'll bear my children.
Yeah,
No,
whether
I
she
don't
likes
think
it or
so.
not.
Do you see me? I don't have black eyes, do I? Do I have 2 black eyes? I definitely don't talk like that to my wife. I can't even think that way. I would get hit.
She can read
She
your
would
thoughts.
know. She would know.
Right?
Yeah.
She has a crystal ball.
It has a crystal ball. That's right.
Are you ovulating? Get in there.
Well, before we leave, we have a message from Santa. Just in case you were wondering how you did this past year and if you made it on the good list or not, here's the man himself.
I bet this is a surprise. You probably didn't expect to be getting a message from me. Now, I normally don't do this, but you are one of my favorite people. And it's important that you know this before it's too late. You see, I've got some bad news. You're on the naughty list.
Shit.
There you have it. You're all on the naughty
talking
list.
to you, John.
There.
He is
Yeah,
talking
he
to
was
you.
talking to me. Damn it. I'm not on the naughty list. I'm on the naughty list.
The
Naughty.
naughty.
I'm gonna punch your beard off.
He looks like a real beard Santa. I love
I
those
know.
guys.
Beard, I would say, yeah.
Well, thanks for coming from Jersey and Massachusetts to be on the show, guys. We really appreciate always everything you guys are doing in the Second Amendment world. And so thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having us for our 3rd annual Christmas special for the Loaded Mic. So this is like a trend.
And make sure you get your plug in. So go ahead, John.
Yep, you can check me out online at thepenpatriot.com. I cover Second Amendment news and topics. I write for primarily Bearing Arms, and then I also cover stuff over at AmmoLand, The Truth About Guns, Shooting News Weekly. News 2A, big old shout out to the News 2A guy.
Yes, good guys over
News
there.
2A is, publishes Dan's stuff, publishes Charlie's stuff. They're doing great, tremendous things. And if you guys have news tips for me, there's something that you want covered, you want to send me love mail, you want to send me hate mail, I get some really good hate mail sometimes. John at thepenpatriot.com.
Excellent. And Charlie, how about you? How can people find you?
People can go to writingshotgunwithcharlie.com. They can find Writing Shotgun with Charlie on YouTube. They can find it on in your favorite podcast software. You can go to News 2A. You can find articles that I've written there. You can find the show on AmmoLand. I am repurposing shows for ArmedLifestyleMagazine.com, so that's kind of cool. I write a couple thousand words, and I re-interview people I've had on the show and then put it into an article, an Armed Lifestyle magazine. And, Writing Shotgun with Charlie. That's where all this stuff is. Oh, and the Gungrams. If you'll just look up Gungram on YouTube, you'll find all those there.
And now for the Loaded Mic co-hosts, any final Christmas messages?
Ho, ho, ho. Idaho.
Idaho. Anything from Anthony? Is that it?
Liberals, stop being dirtbags.
Okay, there you go. Liberals
Talking to all the stupid people.
Talking all the day. Hochul, you're stupid.
Well, thanks for watching the Loaded Mic. You can also find the podcast version on all podcast. Did I say virgin?
Virgin.
The podcast.
You can find a virgin on our
This
podcast.
is your first time.
You can find the podcast version on all platforms. And for the full episodes, go to loadedmic.com. So special thanks to our guests, Charlie Cook and John Petrolino, for stopping by. And we wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I'm Dan Wass, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right.